Well, welcome back, friends, to another edition of Ted Talks Guitars and Life. It is the morning after the second coat of sanding sealer. And so in this video, what I want to do is begin this morning with a couple of observations that I've picked up along the way so far. Two, then later, at a later point in the day after work this evening, I will do some work on the guitar. I'll film all that. I don't think we're going to get to the first coat of color in this one because I need to, well, let me walk through it. I'll walk through what I'm going to do and then we'll go from there. Okay, and I'm going to try not to take as long in these preparatory comments. So, couple things just by way of observations. So, one observation is I think it looks pretty good. I've got as much light, intrusive, halo lamps and things pointed at this direction. It looks pretty good. Now, guys, don't laugh at me, okay? Because I did throw this board on here. I used actual fender screws. Shh, don't tell anybody. And I don't know how you're supposed to sand around all that, man. But having the board was helpful in holding the guitar in some precarious angles and whatnot. Observation number one. So I mentioned in the last video that one of the guys I watched, I think it was Brad, and look, I don't know Brad. If I say Brad, I just mean his channel. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, and I don't remember it this early in the morning. I'm just saying that I'm not pretending like I know these people, okay? Just because I watch their YouTube videos, I don't know them. But I believe it was Brad in one of his videos that I have been watching as I watch people do things and then attempt to mimic. Mimic is the right word. Emulate is a stretch for me, particularly as I'm learning the ropes. But anyway, what he said was, and I mentioned it last night, that once you get sanded wood wet and the wood stands up and where you can feel the roughness of the wood, if you ever put water on wood, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He said if you do that, if you sand it once, that won't happen again. In other words, it's only going to sprout is not the word that he used. Stand up was the expression that he used. And so we're going to find that out today, except I would say that yesterday when I put the sanding sealer on the first coat and I was feeling of it, in the video you can tell that it was very rough. Now, the second observation is, and again, I've got as much light as I can find on here. I can see up here at the top where around the edges of the guitar and just a teensy bit of orange right here. Anyway, I can just see where some more of the sanding sealer came over this horn than I would have liked to have seen. So I've got a little bit of a build-up here is what I'm getting at. The sides of the guitar, I did those as lightly as possible, and so you can see kind of the shininess of that, and they are smooth. And I was showing this to my wife, and she said, "That's a pretty color." I said, "You know what? It really is. I mean, if I was one of the natural blonde kind of telly kind of scenario, man, this wouldn't be a bad way to go." Of course, you've got I think I called it 2 pieces of wood. It's clearly 3 pieces of wood that make up this body right here. Anyway, so on the front, there's a couple of things that I'm observing. in the bright light. One is that I've got more shininess in this area and a little bit less here, which leads me to believe that that surface is not as flat as I anticipated it was. There's a little bit of roughness down in this area of the guitar. It's not rough like the wood is standing up, but I can still feel all those kind of pores. So I don't know, man. I don't know if... I guess I was expecting the sanding sealer to serve as some kind of a pore filler in some way. And maybe it will in time. I don't know. Worst case scenario, I can always throw a wood filler on here, I guess, if I need to in the long run. I did pick some of that up just in case. Okay, so yeah. So what we're going to do is at some point much later in the day, after work, I will sand this guitar. And I've been visiting with Howard about it. Bless Howard's heart, man. Every day he gets 5 calls from me. Okay, now what? So I began writing everything he says down. And I may put the process that I'm following in the description. Maybe that would be helpful. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments, and I will put that in there for you. So, yeah. So what we're going to do is we are going to now move to a finer grit. So this was the first coat, sanding sealer, and then I wet sanded 400. Today we will wet sand maybe 800, maybe 1200, and we'll just get finer with the sanding. And so again, not trying to take any material off the board, just trying to smooth it out. And then, guess what? We will evaluate it and we'll find out from there. Do we need a third coat of sanding sealer? We might. Or will we at that point be ready for paint after it all dries? So one of my questions that I have right now is between the sanding sealer and the color, do I put a coat of primer on? So I will call Howard and say, hey man, just FYI, I got one more question, as if, right? It's only going to be one more question. Do we put primer between, when we get the guitar as smooth as desired, after coats of sanding sealer, do we then move to primer or do we move straight to paint? Well, that's the update, and a minute shorter than yesterday's morning update, so that's got that going for us. Have a great day, man. I'll check back with you later today. Catch you down the road. Well, okay, welcome back. Off camera, I wet sanded with 800 the second coat of sealer, and man, things are smoothing out. Really pleased with how that turned out. This is drying. It's been drying for, well, hours already, but you can tell I've got a fairly light, consistent coat of sanding sealer on here. Very proud of myself. Go Ted! That I didn't put a gallon on here or anything. Maybe half a quart. No, just a little, very little bit. And yeah, my trampoline guitar stand holder is working out well. Anyway, that's the update. Several hours from now, 30, probably 3 seconds for you. Several hours for me later from this video, I will wet sand the third coat of sanding sealer with wet 1200, and we'll see where we are. Catch you down the road. Well, welcome back. So, You are looking at a T-style body that has a third coat of sanding sealer on it, and I am about to wet sand with 1200. So after the first coat of sanding sealer, we wet sanded at 400. After the second coat, we wet sanded at 800. After the third coat, we're going to wet sand at 1200 and see how that works out. I can tell you this, she feels smooth, but we shall see. Stand by. Pardon me while I make some noise to adjust my chair. So I am starting with the back of the guitar so that I can finish with the front of the guitar. And yeah, so I'm going to follow kind of the same procedure that I did in other sanding scenarios. It occurs to me, I don't think I filmed. Sorry, man. I know you guys aren't seeing this in real time. I don't think I filmed the 800 sanding. It was much better than the 400 sanding, I can tell you that. In that, I might be getting the hang of this. Let's find out. Again, this is 1200 wet sand, super light. Just trying to get anything that has stood up sanded down. Very light strokes, trying to go with the grain. Oh man, I always want to do the wax on, wax off. Really not helpful to do it that way. You know, putting the board on here was a great idea. And I know I could take it off every time I do sanding and put it back on, but that seemed like a lot of trouble. I wonder if I ought not have a piece of paper towel to wipe some of this excess water off with. Alright. Well, you don't need to watch me do the rest of it. It'll look just like that. Welcome back. Well, I'm down to the last section of the front of the body with 1200 grit. Doing some light wet sanding and trying to work it out, you know. I can tell you that she is much smoother than it has ever been. The process has been, oh, I wouldn't say arduous, painstaking, maybe. I continue to learn a great deal about a lot of different things along the journey. So grateful, man, for those of you who are hanging out on this journey with me, and for your comments and all the things, man. Oh yeah, now that is super smooth, super smooth. So the plan from here, my plan from here. Hang on to your head, fellas. Primer. I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to throw a coat of primer on it. and we're gonna sand down the primer coat tomorrow, probably. Certainly not today. Let it dry real good. And then we will see where we are. And after adding a coat of primer and sanding tomorrow, we may or may not be ready for a coat of color. We may want to wait. We might want a second coat of primer. And I am anticipating somebody say, man, that is overkill. And you know what, guys? It might be overkill. So, again, I would just say, man, nothing I do is prescriptive for any of you. Guess what, man? You do you, bro. You wouldn't do it this way, don't do it this way. It's all good. If you want to make suggestions in the comment, again, I'm not seeing your suggestions in real time, primarily because I've got a little bit of a lip over here. I'm just trying to, I mean, not compared to anything else I've seen on the guitar, it's nothing, but I don't want to fall into perfectionist mode, man, because if I do that, man, I have been a slave at parts of my life being a perfectionist, and it is no fun, Jack, let me tell you. So if I seem a little free-spirited and willy-nilly, just know, man, in my old rock and roll heart, there is a perfectionist, man, who is given to performance issues, performing for people, doing things right for people, trying to get everybody's approval about every little thing. Well, those days are long gone, but you know, man, sometimes they creep up on me now. So I gotta guard against it, everything I got. Because that ain't no way to live, my friends. No way to live. So when I say you do you, I ain't just talking to you, man. I am preaching to myself. Preaching to the choir, as it were. You do you. Don't let anybody rent space in your head, man. Don't let anybody rent space in your head. It ain't worth it. You can't please them anyway, man. So don't worry about it. Well, we have wet sanded with 1200 grit, the third coat of sanding sealer. I'm gonna let this dry out, air out, all that for a little while. Oh, she's smooth, Jack, let me tell you. She's smooth. So we are going to, after some drying time, we're going to go to a first coat of primer. Then we're going to sand that down. See where we are. That's the update. That's the update. Oh, I got grandbabies invading my space, man. All right, catch you down the road. Be right back.